So happy to be back now with Holly Robinson Peete. And you know, through the Holly Rod Foundation, she has become a voice, a very loud voice for autism. And we're here talking about an important month. Your son, RJ, is autistic. When did you first find out?
I kind of knew when he was 2. It was a mommy gut thing. And I couldn't get my husband or the pediatrician to really come to terms with something was up. He's a twin, so he had a twin sister. And so they were telling me, oh, he's a boy, so boys mature slower than the girl. Don't compare him to a sister. But I knew when he was about 2, but we didn't get the diagnosis till 3 years old.
Well, what did you notice when he was 2? I
saw him stop connecting with his twin sister. I saw him stop making eye contact, pointing at things, and it was very abrupt. He was hitting his milestones, and then all of a sudden, he sort of regressed into himself. And I thought,
I'm sorry.
He had language. He had language, and he was hitting his first words, you know. But then all of a sudden, that stopped. So everything just came to this screeching halt, and I was like, what the heck is going on?
How did you said you know you couldn't get the pediatrician and your husband to sort of jump on your bandwagon, if you will. That's a bad choice of words for that, but. For 2 separate reasons, I assume. I mean, for medical reasons, maybe the pediatrician, but was Rodney in denial about it? Was he?
I think he was. I think he was, well, I know he was, but at the time, I just think that he just, you know, we were rookie parents, you know, with our first kids, and we had 2 the first time, boy and girl, and it was just like this great time, and then all of a sudden, for him to even think that there might be some issue with his son, his namesake, his boy. You know, there was a whole macho thing. I mean, newsflash, men process things differently than women, and you guys, all you guys included, sometimes it's difficult, you know, I mean, especially when it comes to any kind of, you know, disorder.
Right.
So it was tough for him.
So when you finally went to another doctor to find out what was wrong with?
Yes, a developmental pediatrician.
All right, and then what did he end up telling you?
It was a she, and she told us that he had classic autism. So I'm trying to find the silver lining. I'm like, classic? Is that like a classic car or a classic movie? I'm trying to find the silver lining. And then she went on to list all these things he would never do. So we call that day the never day, because she said he would never play sports, you know, and organized sports, which, you know, cut the heart out of my husband. And then he would never say, I love you. I'm like, are you trying to make me cry, lady? And she just went down this list of things that he would never do. But the biggest one is that he would never, you know, speak. He probably wouldn't have any meaningful conversation. So those were the things we heard, and it was gut-wrenching.
How did you 2 process that information when you went home?
Poorly. Very poorly. Yeah. We sat in the car and we cried.
Sure. And
then we sort of went our separate ways, not physically, but just as how we were going to approach this.
Right.
So I was on like kick your butt avenue, and he was on Denial Street. You know, and now I look back, we can say this because we're still together, but there's a very high divorce rate with parents of kids with special needs. Because it's hard. There's financial, emotional, there's blame. There are a lot of issues that you have to deal with. So we took different paths, and it was a little bit of a challenge.
How did it affect your marriage?
Oh, it was difficult. I mean, I'm glad that we didn't end up a statistic. We've been together 20 years. But there was a moment where I was like, I can't support him and his autism and nurture you too. But he needed to be coddled, my husband did, because he needed to like someone to walk him through all this. And I'm like working and taking care of this little boy and his sister. So I can't, you know, it was hard for me to take care of him as well.
How about you and your needs?
Oh, who?
What? Yeah, no,
what? Get to the back of the line with all that.
But in retrospect, when the both of you look back on that time, don't you wish you had processed it differently to be more of a support towards one another?
And I tell all the people who ever ask me in social media, whatever, you know, what should I do with my husband? And, you know, he's really, and I say you have to have more empathy. He's processing this differently. I wish I'd have been a little bit. Rodney wrote a great book called Not My Boy. And when I read like the first draft of it, I was like, wow, I was really mean. I mean, I was like, woo! I didn't know I was that. And he was like, honey, you had to be. He was so lovely about it. Yeah, you were mean, but, you know, you had to be, because you had to take care of business, and you didn't have time to, you know, to walk me through
You guys had, I mean, this is what I think why, you know, this month is so important, is to encourage the communication and the embrace of others who are going through this.
Right.
But it wasn't easy for you guys to step out publicly, was it?
No, we took our sweet time. It wasn't until he was about maybe 7 or 8 where I mean, everyone in our circle knew, our friends knew, you know, we were very open about it in our circle, but publicly we had not spoken about it. My dad had Parkinson's disease at the time, and we were really focused on that. We had started a foundation for Parkinson's, and so we weren't ready to have a public conversation about that. And plus, Rodney didn't want him to be labeled, you know, the athlete's kid with autism. You know, he was concerned about the labeling.
Yeah.
But then we had a kitchen table conversation where we figured out that it was going to be more beneficial to us to use our platform to talk about this. And we never saw anyone talking about it in a big way, and that would have been helpful to us when we got our diagnosis.
So what was the first thing that you did?
I did a magazine cover for Essence magazine, and I talked about it, and it was so hard. And I went on the Oprah show, and I talked about it, and I was just like blubbering. Yeah. I couldn't even get it out. It was so hard to actually articulate what was going on, but boy, it was really cathartic, and we knew we were helping so many people, and the response was awesome.
Did you turn that voice publicly, but how did that go in the house with the other children?
Well, you know, his sister's very protective. She's a twin. We call her Sister Teresa. She's got this big heart. You know, she got to, you know, you got to go through her to get to him. So she's very into advocating for him. And she was concerned about him. She takes on a lot of his issues, his problems. So, and the little guys, you know, the little guys are so cool. They're like little therapists. Because, you know, kids with autism, the idea is to pull their, you know, pull them out of their shell. Nothing pulls you out of your shell more than 2 annoying little brothers.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, explain to us in this family photo.
Yeah, well, this is those are the twins. That's my daughter Ryan, Rodney, and then we call him RJ, and that's Robinson, the middle guy, and the little baby Roman, and that's Harriet and Freddie.
So he was
16 now, isn't he?
He's almost 16, yeah.
But he received tell us about the award he received. It was the Genius Award.
Well, remember, you know, that Never Day when he was not going to talk, and so when he got language later on, and my mom took him
what a beautiful boy.
Oh, thank you. My mom took him to New York. I couldn't make it. My husband and I couldn't make it, so my mom, who's the greatest grandmother ever, took him to New York, and he received this Genius of Autism Award. And essentially, it was just kids with autism who defied the odds, and there were artists there and musicians, and he was an advocate. He was there as an advocate.
Sure.
And it was so wonderful.
What kind of those support system did he receive? Did you take him out of his normal school and put him in a special school for children with autism to help him?
We first had him in a special autism school, which was a preschool, and they were lovely. They were so sweet. But when it came time for his mainstream, like elementary school, we wanted him to model up and be in a mainstream school where he could see other kids and not just be we thought that was important, and we were fortunate to find this school. So up to 6th grade, he had this amazing support system. But then middle school and high school,
different story.
It almost feels like we're getting the diagnosis again because of the hormones and teenagers and autism. It's a kind of a whole nother hurdle.
So how was it that he ended up receiving this award? Because you must have.
He's been advocating. He would go out with me, and we would do speeches, and he would go to walks, and he really got into it.
We have a clip of his acceptance speech
because
I want people to see this.
Where are the Kleenex? Where are the Kleenex?
Take a look at this. This is ours.
It has been a long, difficult journey with autism. When I graduated from 6th grade, I wrote a poem called Yesterday and Today. It started, yesterday I couldn't speak, today I can't stop talking. Everyone clapped. I am 13 now. I still have my struggles, but I'm so happy to be able to tell the world how I feel. When I couldn't talk, I couldn't still hear what people were saying about me. Always remember that. My hope for all kids with autism is for them to know how amazing they are. Thank you again.
Wow. Did he write that?
He wrote that, and don't you love how he was holding for his laughs?
Yeah,
it was like, it got good to him.
Yeah.
It got good to him for a minute, right? Yeah. But that was awesome because, again, that was something we never ever envisioned him being able to articulate in front of a crowd, and so he's come so far, and it was just a beautiful moment.
Has he been able to say he loves you?
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God.
There's your happy ending right there.
It never stops. It never stops. But I do want to add, because for the people that are watching this now, because there's so many families dealing with autism, they will never hear their children speak. And I want them to know that the good news is there are so many ways through technology that kids can communicate. You know, for our Holly Rod Foundation, we have something called Gift of Voice, and we give out tablets, and there's ways and apps. So that's the good news. But you know, there are families that won't get that opportunity. So while I'm excited about it, I want to remember them.
Well, I know why he's so good looking and so big. He's eating really well at home, isn't he? He's got the mac and cheese diet going on,
secret ingredients.
So we're going to get in the kitchen a little bit. If you want more information on the Holly Rod Foundation, you can go to hollyrod.org. And then it's up to the kitchen.
Yeah, we're going to the kitchen. We're going to make some mac and cheese. You
yes.
can make some.
Healthy version.